Hello everybody and welcome to Rivas Reviews, the show where I'll watch a film and tell you why I think that film is absolutely peak, base, mid, or cringe. Today I'm reviewing 6 Days Alone, a film written by Daniel Lotz and Ethan Hansen, also directed by Daniel Lotz, starring Daniel and Elizabeth Lotz. The story is about Daniel vlogging his life alone at his apartment for 6 days due to his wife leaving for work. Though as the days go on, weird stuff starts to happen due to his sleepwalking incidents. Thus, he starts to discover more about the unknown than he realizes. This film was released on January 31st, 2022, and in this review, I'm going to be telling you why 6 Days Alone is absolutely cringe. The main problem I have with this film is the writing. You see, when it comes to feature films, especially in the indie genre, I believe it's always the golden rule to grab your audience's attention within the first 5 to 10 minutes. And with the short runtime this film has, the introduction it's okay. I understand that this film was made to look like a shitty vlog that a regular person would make, especially with the knowledge that Daniel wanted this to be a shot on iPhone, one-man crew feature film. Though because of how boring day one was, it didn't give me enough intrigue to continue this journey, which hurt the pacing of this film. Especially when day 2 shows up, the plotline changes from vlogging alone for 7 days to let's document my sleepwalking incidents. And it never feels like it has a solid ground for a story to stand on. I felt this would have benefited so much more if Dan just had a solid outline for what he wanted this to be, because I like the idea of his character making a short documentary about a sleepwalking phenomenon while his wife is away. Though the motivation for this documentary is weak. First, it's I want to make a vlog for fun, which, is a fair reason. Then he tells us the true purpose of this doc is to document his sleepwalking, which made me think, why wasn't this the main goal, instead of making me waste 7 minutes in the beginning? Then later in the film, after a shocking reveal, he finally tells us the motivation for this film was to mess with his audience, which at that point I'm asking myself, why do you have so many goals within this film? If anything, there should be at least 2 main goals. The first being the sleepwalking goal, then the second being the reveal that happens so that the twist could have an effect. But even then, the reveal falls apart. And what I mean by this is that in the reveal, it shows that someone else entered his house while he was sleepwalking. Then he tells us that the secondary HD camera shots we saw throughout the doc were planned to mess with the viewers, which I would have loved this if the camera shots had movement within them, because while shot-wise I love how voyeuristic they were, I felt giving them a little bit of movement would have greatly benefited this, especially with the ghost story Dan mentioned earlier on in the film, and now knowing that the HD shots were by Dan. Plus, in the same scene, he's revealing everything is fake, so why not have a second guy with you be the cameraman of that HD camera? That way you can start questioning him and realize you're in true danger that a random stranger has entered your house. But from the raw footage we see having cuts, bad acting, bad explanation of things happening, like seeing a footage glitch out, only for Dan to be like, oh, the battery must have died, on an iPhone. It just takes out the realism for me. And instead of this film feeling like an actual found footage film, it just feels like Dan was gaslighting me into thinking this is a found footage film. To me, it seems like Dan the filmmaker was trying to make Dan the character do a behind the scenes version of No Through Road, with of course bad consequences for doing it. Though because he wanted to use an iPhone instead of a camcorder, most of the logic here just doesn't make sense. Like there's a scene in day 2 where he was talking about setting up multiple cameras to record his sleepwalking. Within that same sentence, he said he didn't have multiple cameras, only for 2 seconds later to tell us that he has a Sony camera and his Canon 2 Ti, and he could pull those out. And it would have been one thing if he mentioned that he wouldn't be able to use them due to them being broken, a recording limit, lost, or whatever, just any other excuse. Instead, he just doesn't want to use those cameras for the sake of it, which doesn't make sense in that situation. Again, I get it, he wanted to shoot this film with only his iPhone, though if you're going to fully commit to it, at least have good reasons as to why you can't use the other cameras. The last thing that irked me within this film was the twist ending. At the end, it's revealed that the Dan we saw at the beginning was the night clone, whereas the real Dan was killed during the night of day 6. Then it shows the doppelganger kissing Dan's wife, and that's how it ends. And at least to me, it is such a horrible ending. Because let's say, hypothetically speaking, I was the writer of this film. I would have revealed that the night version of Dan came from another universe where his wife died, and the only way to see her again was through this magical door. And because Day Dan wanted to make this documentary for his audience, but accidentally found out about Night Dan had to kill Day Dan so that no one knew about the power of that secret door. Thus, instead of hearing this clip,
this is my movie now.
it's instead something like, I'm sorry for what's about to happen, just know your wife's gonna be okay, but this is the price for cursed knowledge. Then the ending plays as normal, and then when the wife says, you miss me, we can still add the freeze frame and have the last line be like, you have no idea, or something in the likes of that. And then, boom, title card. Also, there's a post-credit scene too, but it's just a shitty jump scare. Overall, I hate that I had to give this film an absolute cringe rating because I'm a fan of found footage films, iPhone filmmaking, and the idea here isn't that bad. It's just the execution when it comes to writing, cinematography, acting, and everything else that brings this idea down, to the point that this found footage film would have made more sense with a camcorder, a solid story, and a bit more character development with Dan than an iPhone and a make it up as you go outline. The only good thing I could say about this film is that it's absolutely free on YouTube if you want to check it out, and I highly recommend you do. The YouTube channel is called $5 Film School, and while I personally didn't like this film, I do love the idea Dan brought in when making this film. Whether you think it's good or bad, he still made the film alone with the tools he had available, so why can't we do the same? So what do you guys think of 6 Days Alone? Have you seen the film? And if so, what rating would you give it and why? I would love to hear it in the comment section below. If you liked this episode, make sure to like and subscribe for future videos. Finally, thank you guys for watching and have a very wonderful day.